Hi, everybody. This is day 1587 days since Richard went missing and was murdered, code red murdered internally on Fort Bliss. And let's see if this is all working since I just went. There it is. Okay. So we all know by now that we were lied to from the very beginning. Well, we were kept in the dark, and then we were kicked out, and then we were brought back in to be lied to frame a false narrative, to tell us, to create a smear campaign. They created a smear campaign on Richard, and we know that they fed that to the media, and some of the media absolutely knew it was a smear campaign. They didn't do their homework. They didn't talk to family. They went along with it. Um, and, it really is unforgivable because let's talk about Rose Thayer at Stars and Stripes. She absolutely talked to us, and she absolutely has been reporting on the military for many, many years. And she absolutely knows that soldiers are very, very special because they are volunteer soldiers that they come in and they are trained. They are trained to protect our Constitution, to defend our Constitution, to protect the United States of America. And that not one of them is perfect, not one of them. And so they're trained to have esprit de corps. They're trained to learn the creeds. They're trained to become strong mentally and physically, to have the Medal of Honor ethos. That is what we've been led to believe that our volunteer sons and daughters are joining. But now, these last years, they put in this DEI, the diversity thing. They put our national security at risk for diversity. No, you don't have an army in uniform diverse, okay? You just don't have that. You have them all looking the same, practically the same, and they're not strong being diverse, okay? And it doesn't matter what race they are, nothing. They have to work as an army of one, an army of one. And that means that they have to work together, and they have to, you know, the, that's why we have uniforms. And it is, it is shocking to see the threat to our national security with the absolute insanity that was coming down the pipeline, what did come down the pipeline. And we believe, as Team Find Richard Halliday, that this absolutely caused a hate crime against our son, Richard Halliday, because the military was being not trained properly to have the Medal of Honor ethos, to be an army of one, to be all you can be. It was trained to be a political soundboard for a very progressive agenda. And that is not what it's there for. Go to someplace else where you can do that, where it's appropriate, but not the United States military. That's not where it's appropriate. The United States military has one job, and that is to defend our Constitution. And when you understand the Texas Constitution in Richard's case, then you absolutely understand the importance of defending the United States Constitution, because it gives the people the rights. It gives us our civil rights. It gives us, um, you know, the government serves us. They're called servants because they serve the people. It's a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And, that's why you have creeds. That's why you have the Medal of Honor ethos. That's why you have esprit de corps, because you have to be an army of one, or you have to bring people together so that they can have one thought, and one thought only, and that is to defend the Constitution. And that's the United States of America, right? That's the land and the people, the land and the people. And so we really believe that the political atmosphere um, was allowed by Veronica Escobar, Representative Veronica Escobar, and many more. But she was really a front runner on this because she's in El Paso, and El Paso is, the epicenter for this criminal trafficking, for this political agenda. Um, and and of course, Richard got there and he saw something and he said something and he reported it because he wanted to be CID. He was, wanting to be an investigator. He wanted to document, he wanted to identify crime and document the crime. And he wanted to stop crime, right? He wanted to stop the crime legally. And so he became a whistleblower. He became a very effective whistleblower because there were audits. There were audits and there were investigations. The IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. And, they were absolutely being shaken up, just like the courthouse right now. And so that, especially if Delta Battery, which is a very important battery, and you see 29, what was that, 2479 Han Road, is also an important building, right? It's also a very important building with the arms room. And, and Delta Battery is in that building, and Delta Battery is very important. It gets fuel. It gets fuel. So if you want to do trafficking, you need fuel, right? And if you want to do arms trafficking or ammunition trafficking, you need to have access to the arms room, right? Um, so the narcotics trafficking, of course, that's going on, and of course the human trafficking and the child trafficking and the child porn that we know that Dallas Hart was involved in. We know it's documented. It's not me saying that, okay? It's not me saying that he was into the child porn. It was Leilani Hart. It was his mother, right? That absolutely exposed all of that. And then she even exposed her husband to all of it uh, in a affidavit, that she had notarized, and that the FBI had accepted and made it a case file. And we have that case number. Why? Because she had breaches. She through her family member, Tavita Nusa, and I believe her friends, um, within the intelligence community, she had access to these file numbers. And so, because she got her file number, nobody gets your FBI file number. Nobody gets that unless you have access to their files. and access to people willing to give you those numbers. And so she was bragging about it, and they were floating around because she was bragging about it. And that's how we got it. That's how we got the number, because she floated it around. And there are, amazing people in El Paso, and we are very, very grateful, especially, right before Thanksgiving. We're very, very grateful for all of those that have helped us with this case and to get this far. And now we have even major, major help. Breaking news, on record, a uh, very high ranking individual, um, on record, that the commander of Fort Bliss issued illegal orders to have the arms room renovated, without going through the normal regulations or cost, what uh, permissions or whatever, to just have it renovated. He illegally ordered the renovation of the arms room. And so we're very, very appreciative of this information, because we have other information that pieces of the puzzle that puts that together with the BORSTAR Canine, and other information about uh, 2479. I hope I'm getting this with the get right. The Han Road. It's been a little bit of an emotional day because of all the other information that's coming in about what happened to Richard. And all the letters, so we've been working very, very hard behind the scenes and receiving responses to all of our letters. So you can tell that things are really happening right now, because of the responses, the very quick responses. And then we quickly have to um, draft responses back. And, that's not so simple. It's, you really have to go through all your files and remember everything that's happened. And, praise God for my husband. He's always written a journal. Since I've known him, we've been married. Jesus is going to be 4 decades in a couple years. So, he's always written a journal. He keeps really good records. And so, we're very, I'm very grateful for that. And, just to go back and look at everything, see what happened, in order to respond, because we're working against many different agencies. And so to have this kind of motion, the wave is getting bigger and bigger. The wave of accountability is getting bigger and bigger. And I think it's heading to Leilani Hart and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, to Veronica Escobar and Penny Hamilton. And today we heard breaking news that at the courthouse, it really is heading towards Bill Hicks, that Bill Hicks is being scrutinized, that people are starting to say, hey, we want proof of your authority to prosecute us. They're saying that to Bill Hicks, and rightfully so, because we've been reporting that he did not sign his anti-bribe line before he took the oath of office, which makes him illegitimate. And we have the hard evidence of that. And that evidence also confirms that he tampered with government records. So that is, he's breaking the law there. All of the subsequent actions that he has done are without authority. So when you go back and look at his record, he's being very careful not to ever go to trial, and you see this is what's going on at the courthouse. But the courthouse doesn't just have one problem. The courthouse has multiple problems because they have the El Paso Criminal Law Magistrate Court is also operating without any authority because these individuals have not been elected by the people. And the Texas Constitution says when you have this much power, when you have full countywide power, you must be elected. And they're not, and they're not. And so, there is a lot of chaos going on at the courthouse and the jail, and rightfully so. We were even given the information today that Penny Hamilton in our son's case, that she absolutely we have a huge lawsuit against her if we want to do that because of her violations in our son's case, that we would have absolutely the right to press charges, to bring a suit against her. So, that is, uh, wow, um, an option, right? An option. Um, and it's getting there. Right now, we absolutely want to have our son's remains. Maybe BORSTAR, the canines handlers in BORSTAR can help us with that. With this new information coming out, um, we understand that Richard was dismembered. We understand that. We want his remains. Okay? We want his remains. Um, yes. And we understand um, the situation, and it cannot be allowed to be covered up. It cannot be allowed to be covered up because we have had years where our national security was so at risk by people that were serving foreign and domestic enemies instead of honoring their oath, which is to defend the Constitution, the people, and the land. Remember that it's the people, the government, of the people, by the people, for the people. And, we hear that so much, and it seems to go over our heads because we've never lived in like this tyranny, right? Um, but it's, we've, the last few years, seeing the government agencies being weaponized, and they were weaponized against Richard, totally weaponized against Richard. Um, then, then we wake up. That's when we wake up and say, wait a minute, maybe we need to defend the Constitution. Maybe we need to defend the Texas Constitution. And maybe we need to defend the rights of the states under one nation, under God, right? Maybe we need to do that. Maybe we need to maybe our founders were smart. Maybe they weren't as square as we thought. Maybe um, they were looking out for the freedoms of the people. Maybe we need to go back to that, Maybe they were religious with their creeds with their prayer, with their 10 commandments for a reason. For a reason. Maybe they had seen things. Maybe they had already been through things. And maybe they were the way they were for a reason. And maybe we should get back to that, because I absolutely believe um, that there are no constitutions without the Word of God behind it, that protects the freedoms, the liberties of the people, and keeps the abuse of power at bay, right? At bay. Keeps the abuse of power from raising its very evil head. And in Richard's case, if just stay tuned, because Richard's case is absolutely an example of the abuse of power and how absolutely horrific it can get. And so that's why we cannot just let it go. We have to hold those accountable for what they did to Richard, and we have to get Richard's remains, and we absolutely uh, need to see that the military does what they're supposed to do, and that is to defend the Constitution and not mismanage the funds, right? Um, Veronica Escobar, and now, she's just got a bad name for herself, with being co-chair for the Harris. She's just mismanaged almost $1 billion. Some people are saying it's over $1 billion. Just totally mismanaged it and was a total loser. And a big loser, a big loser. And there's some people that are very, very upset about that. About, how could she mismanage and be such a big loser when she was given about $1 billion on a silver platter, and I think it was more. And then that's not even counting all of the media help, the media coverage that was so, like Kamala Harris is like the media sweetheart. Um, and still, Veronica Escobar can't pull out one even little positive note of this campaign. Total failure, total loser. And that's not me. That's not me saying it. That's her own critics. Um, and it's something, because uh, that corroborates what we're saying about her leadership in El Paso, that she's a total loser, that she absolutely did not protect El Paso, the volunteer soldiers, that she did not protect Fort Bliss, that she did not protect the hundreds of thousands of children in these camps that had come unaccompanied, but I call them taken children. They were taken children, and put in these camps and registered in these camps under Fort Bliss, and we're hearing it was so bad. It was so bad in these camps. It was giving people nightmares. Even the worst type of people that were profiting off of it were having nightmares, and just couldn't live with themselves. Um, Hundreds of thousands that they were writing registered numbers on their clothes, on their bodies. And then all of a sudden, where are they? They just disappeared. And, they have nobody. They've been taken, and and now, the word is that they're mostly dead. And this is Veronica Escobar. Okay, she mismanages $1 billion, but what about she mismanaged hundreds of thousands of children? She mismanaged volunteer soldiers. She mismanaged the security of Fort Bliss. She mismanaged the courts. She's the one that approved the payment for these imposters. Um, she mismanaged. It was her job to say, okay, who am I paying? Are they legitimate? She mismanaged the chief medical examiner. She mismanaged the El Paso um, criminal law magistrate court. She mismanaged Richard's case. She mismanaged the Walmart mass shooting case. She absolutely mismanaged it, being, going out there and spewing the garbage that, that Patrick Crucius was, the single lone shooter, and he was racist, and it was all MAGA, and it was all Trump, and then refused to even meet the president of the United States that was coming to offer condolences and federal help, and she refuses to meet with him. What kind of, she is just mismanages. And then now she knew that Patrick Crucius was autistic, that he was self-harming autistic, that he could never have carried that out by himself, that even the way she knew that there were multiple people. She knew that he was not racist, that he was not a white supremacist, that he could never have possibly by himself create a manifesto and right after the shooting or right before the shooting or in the car while he's right in the middle while he's waiting to go and surrender for the second time. I'll go and surrender the first. No, 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 go away, Patrick, it's too soon, go away. And then, okay, well, I'll go and load up my manifesto with so and so, see if he's doing that or whatever. Eat my orange or whatever. um and put up this 8chan manifesto that he could never, he could look, the teachers had to put him in a special spot because he would get frustrated and hit himself. He didn't even have verbal abilities until later in life. It takes a want to know what's going on in the outside world in order to write a manifesto like that, right? He didn't want to know the outside world, right? In my opinion, um, he had to have help. And the reason why I'm saying that is because Austin has told us that now they know that he did not act alone. And so you know, this is a mismanagement of Representative Veronica Escobar, because she could have held hearings. She could have held hearings in Richard's case. She could have held hearings from us. She could have held hearings from the active duty Fort Bliss soldier that was a witness. She could have held hearings for the Walmart mass shooting. She could have did the oversight of these camps that now you have hundreds of thousands of children that are mostly dead. She could have done stopped any payments to these imposters that were uh, giving rulings, orders without any kind of authority over people's lives in the magistrate court. She could have stopped the payment for that. You know, she's just mismanaged and hurt so many people, and I believe she's committed crimes against humanity. She's committed crimes against humanity and crimes against the United States, and I think it's worthy of having the death penalty on the table for this one. And she absolutely is part of the criminal group, the same criminal group of Leilani Hart and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. And I haven't even mentioned the illegal uh, immigration fraudsters the immigration fraudsters. Both Leilani Hart and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia are immigration fraudsters, and they do the immigration fraud to collect on benefits, which is theft. They're thieves. And what's Danae always in trouble for? Being a thief. And these are all, that's the same family. Um, and they targeted us. They targeted Richard. They targeted our key whistleblower witness. They targeted the duly elected Yvonne Rosales. They targeted her administration. It's all making sense. And a couple years ago, you're like, okay, I got a piece here and a piece here. More and more pieces are put together, and we have breaking news today. Breaking news again today. It's a double breaking news day. Breaking news is that individuals are absolutely asking in the courthouse for proof of authority from Bill Hicks. That is huge. That is huge. And also breaking news that on record, high ranking individual saying that, because, we have also audio of Leilani Hart and Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. We just haven't gotten to the point. I haven't been able to do it so I can release it. And now we have on record a high ranking individual, thank you so much, saying that the commander of Fort Bliss bypassed regulation and everything and just illegally ordered the renovation of the arms room, where BORSTAR K9 were there. And we have a CID report that says BORSTAR K9 had a positive hit. And we remember that meeting. And everything's starting to make sense. And when I can release more about that, but everything's coming out. Thank you for this change of administration. Elections really matter, and that's why the Constitution gives us the right to elect. That's why these judges on the Mag Court need to be elected. And I also have some more other breaking news. I just remember this breaking news. The breaking news is that the president of Mexico has changed their law, saying that all judges in Mexico must be elected because appointed judges are corrupt judges. That appointed judges are corrupt judges. This is the president of Mexico. And she just changed the law there to say, the judges are going crazy. The courts are going crazy there. I mean, there is just amazing chaos there in the minds of these judges that have been appointed, because she says appointed judges are corrupt judges. So she must have a lot of evidence to say that. And then she changed the law in Mexico. All judges in Mexico must be elected because elections matter. And that's why the Texas Constitution calls for the election of full county-wide judges. When you have full county-wide jurisdiction, that judge needs to be elected. And we have the power given to us to elect in our Constitution. And it's so important. It's so important, and it really matters. And I hope that everyone voted. And because we have, a group of people that do not believe that their vote matters, that their vote counts, because there is cheating and corruption in elections. Absolutely. We need to do what we can to make the elections fair. But elections matter, and we need to keep it going until we straighten it out. Until we straighten it out. We cannot, just because of our frustration, allow the enemy to win to get rid of our elections. We must have elections, and we must have our judges being elected. And it was such a positive message from Mexico that they also corroborate that appointed judges are corrupt judges. And that's why Bill Hicks, being appointed, he wasn't elected, he can't win an election. He just proved that, right? That he has to sign the anti-bribe line before he takes the oath of office. Because when you're appointed, you are more susceptible to being corrupted. So you must be held accountable somehow. And so you must sign, and the beautiful Texas Constitution covers that. It has such foresight, right? And it says, look, you need to sign the anti-bribe line before you take the oath of office. And even elected judges have to sign the anti-bribe line before they take the oath of office. So this is, very important development in this case. And I thank you so much for coming on. And I'm just reaching out to as many people as I possibly can, any way I can, for our country, for our service members, for El Paso, for Mexico. We love you and we thank you. We're very grateful, especially right before Thanksgiving. We're even more grateful to God that you have supported us for so long. It's been over 4 years, right? 1,800 and 1,587 days. So we're